Yeah, I know one.
And this interruption was brought to you by Rhine Guys.
That's where you guys were ended before I interrupted. Was there's a type of tree and a time of year that gives this that supports mushroom growth.
I don't remember what. It's like a type of bush, and I mean it's everywhere. It's complete ground cover. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's escaping me right now.
Spice?
No, I keep wanting to say like gum, but
what's that little umbrella plant? Is this what you're talking about? That once it starts to sprout and then it starts to
poison ivy, but it's not.
Yeah, that then starts to open up its little mini canopy. That's when we start finding morels. I'm pretty sure it has to do with soil temperature.
Are you talking about like 5 leaves and they kind of open like an umbrella?
Yeah.
Those are called May apples.
May apples?
Yep.
That have
So usually,
flowers.
yeah, so like I remember when I first got into it, like I remember my dad teaching me about May apples, and I always thought like, oh, if you see May apples, that's where mushrooms are. It's not necessarily that's where the mushrooms are. What it does is it gives you a good idea of the time of season. So like if I start seeing the white flowers on the apple trees, or if I start seeing like May apples actually like growing,
Yeah.
that's like, okay, it's mushroom time.
It's time.
Like, yeah, it's more. It's not necessarily like, oh, hey, they're by the May apples. It's like, no, this is the right time because all of these things bloom at the same time.
Yeah.
So we kind of use it as like a sign, like, hey, it's time. We need to get out there. Like I talked to him just last week about going out, and he was like, Nicholas, believe it or not, there's guys in Southern Ohio finding them already because Southern Ohio will get it way before we do.
Yeah.
But it's usually like a good sign that it's getting close. So he's got buddies all over the place, and we have a bunch of forums that we follow. And it tells you like where they're popping up.
Dude, these mushroom internet forums are like low key, just like this underground world of everybody just like talking about mushrooms. And I'm like, this is a community that I am not aware of.
Yeah,
this
like,
is interesting.
Yeah,
it really is.
One thing that like I love, like a lot of these guys will do that because they do it as they'll say like they're your eye exercises. Like when I was a kid, we were. Like when we used to go to like the Scholastic Book Fair, we love the I Spy books. I love the I Spy books because you're trying to find these little things hidden in pictures.
Yeah.
And what these guys on these mushroom forums will do is they'll actually go out in the woods and they'll find a mushroom and they'll take a picture and then they'll post it to the forum and be like, you know, I check, where's it at?
Shed guys do that too.
Really?
Like,
Wow.
Like I love it because it kind of like helps start training your eyes to look for this stuff.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice that guys do that for each other too.
Caitlin from TikTok and her glasses. Do you guys believe in?
Oh, with the shed glasses and the mushroom glasses.
I don't know that I believe. I don't know whether it's a TikTok trend.
This is the first I've heard of this.
All right, so there's two different glasses that I've seen. I actually bought a pair when I was like 21, 22 years old. I didn't know if it was going to help or not, but the ones that I bought were orange lenses, and the ones that we've seen recently were a blue lens. And all it's supposed to do, like any lens ever, is just filter what light rays are coming in, what color you see, and which ones don't, and then everything else is supposed to be left a certain color. The way these are supposed to work is to leave things white. So the sheds or the mushrooms or whatever pop out a lot brighter and they're easier to see. I, however, think, well, if you're looking for them, you're gonna see them.
Yeah.
Don't spend the $20 on the glasses.
Yeah, the most of the time, like when I go out with my dad, like it's gotten to the point now where, like, don't get me wrong, like my dad is a phenomenal mushroom hunter. Like he knows where to go. Like if he wouldn't have taught me like the spots that he found, I probably wouldn't be nearly as successful as I am. But now it's getting to the point where like he'll like brag to his friends like, hey, you know, my kid's actually pretty good at this. But what I feel like why I'm good at it is I'm going in places that he won't.
Yeah.
Because like I said, with those shrubs and everything, like I will go down and like I usually get like the Sawyer's permethrin spray.
Yeah,
I'll spray that
ticks.
down.
Yeah.
Because ticks, they're terrible. And that's one thing, like he doesn't like crawling under stuff.
Yeah, it's what, March 15th, and they're already out bad right now.
Like I'll cover myself in that stuff, and dude, I'm out there like an army crawling underneath bushes and stuff, and I'll find them everywhere. But it's just because a lot of guys won't go through the effort.
That's me
To go and find them.
That's me. I'm a comfortable mushroom hunter.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not putting out that extra effort. Now, if you're telling me that there's a nice deer on the other side of that ridge, and I have to crawl through more flora for 200 yards, I'm gonna do it. But a mushroom, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna walk back to the truck.
Yeah, I just
Nick, what do you do with your mushrooms when you collect them? Like, how do you cook them? How do you prepare them?
so most of the time, like if I'm with my dad, usually I just kind of give them to him just because like he loves, like he's part of those forums. He'll take pictures and post them and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Usually like if I go out and like it's just me, like I know he likes to dehydrate them and save them, and he's got brown paper bags full of these things. I like to eat them as soon as I get them.
Same.
Like it's
a treat.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like deer tenderloins. Like you got to get them while they're fresh.
Yep.
So I'll go home and like I'll just cook them. And now some days, I mean, it's just so usually like you got to use butter.
Have to.
Don't use oil. I mean, you can. I'm not telling you what to do. It's your life.
It's better. Better with butter.
There's so much more flavor with butter. Okay, like Paula Deen did something right. Like she knew, butter's the ticket.
One thing she did do right.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna get into that one, but for the most part, like I said, if I'm out there, like I'll also try to collect ramps if I see them.
Yeah.
But you don't always see those. Those are kind of elusive. So usually, like I'll get an onion, I'll chop up an onion, and I'll saute that in with the mushrooms. And like I said, it's got to be a little crispy, but you still want them kind of tender.
Yeah.
So
are you saving like a specific piece of your deer, especially after you coming off a really good deer season this past year? Like, all right, I'm saving this amount of backstrap for a couple of mushroom meals come spring, because that's what I normally try to do. And I'm granted, now that Casey and I are both smacking deer pretty frequently, we have a plethora of deer meat. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty easy to save this stuff. But I used to be like, all right, I'm saving the backstrap. There's a couple steaks that I'm going to save. And if I get mushrooms this next year, this is that meal. And I'm planning that shit back from October.
Yeah. So because like this has like been my first few years of deer hunting, I haven't really thought that far ahead yet.
No.
So like before the last, like the one meal that like I cooked up with my buddy, because we were out turkey hunting, we stopped at the store. We got a couple big T-bone steaks. I bought asparagus. I bought some onions just in case I couldn't find ramps.
Yeah.
And I brought 2 cast iron skillets because I have a whole like loadout for like my camping gear, my cooking stuff, and seasonings. And we just cooked it there over the fire while we were camping. And I mean, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
He was very hesitant because he was like, I think a lot of people just getting into mushroom hunting. It's like they have the drive and the desire to do it. But then again, like when you're talking about eating a mushroom, like people get very timid about it.
Yeah.
They're like, well, that does not look at it. And I will tell you right now, like if I didn't know about Morels and I saw one in the woods, it would not go in my mouth.
They are a little funny.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing that you don't think.
You're not finding that one at the store.
No, like, and that it's a very unique thing to go out and look for and eat. But like I took him out, and I remember like we weren't doing good with turkey. They were giving us the runaround. So I told him,
that.
I was like, well, hey, like while we're already out here, I was like, why don't we look for mushrooms?
Yeah.
And sure enough, like I found some of the right trees and the right foliage and stuff. And I'm like, well, let's go look over here. Sure enough, like we went under this bush and there were dozens of them.
Nice.
So picked a bunch of them, and then we brought them back to camp and cooked them that night. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's the best. The taste of spring is what I normally call that meal, especially during turkey season when you go out, and if like the trifecta, if you can get a turkey, some mushrooms, and a shed all in the same day, like that's definitely something to celebrate. The last couple times we've gotten turkey, we specifically eat the heart, the liver. We take apart the gizzard too, especially because we get the turkey stones. But we always try and like, all right, what was recently acquired? Was it mushrooms, or was it something else? Because we'll pick chives and whatnot as well, and we'll try and make a taste of that season. Mm-hmm. So like the obvious one for us is spring, because you're finally stretching your legs back from being in winter and indoors for the last couple of months, and then once you're out there, like, all right, this feels natural again. So we always try and dig into something like that.
How did you learn who did you learn what those herbs and veggies were? Like, you didn't just Google it.
I learned from the internet. I mean,
Where did that curiosity come from? Were you like, hey, what does a green onion look like?
So mine.
it's like the orange onions, but they're green.
Hey, I picked one out of the ground and I was like, hey, that looks like a green onion. And I ate it and Dane said, hey, don't put stuff into your mouth. I'm curious how other people
That's good advice.
Did you learn from your parents or did you research it? What is this green thing growing from the ground? Can I eat it?
I mean, I think we all, like when we were kids, especially kids that are interested in the outdoors, you have either that book that someone got you, that survival book.
Field guide.
Yeah, the field guide
I
book.
didn't get that book.
Or, yeah, probably not you.
And I just ate stuff out of the ground.
Yeah.
You're a weird kid, dude.
I ate everything.
Skittles off the floor.
I was a weird kid.
Yeah, but you're a kid. You're going out there in the woods with your buddy, or in my case, my brother, who's just a year older, and we're building the traps that you see in those books, and we're making our little tents and stuff. And then you see these, like, do not eat this berry. And we all know, like, all right, don't eat that berry. But there's always that one kid that was like, I ate that berry. What?
I was that kid.
I married that kid.
This explains entirely.
Okay, keep going.
No, I think for me, I learned it when I was a kid from my grandfather and my dad, because my grandparents, like the first 8 or 9 years of my life, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents while my dad was still going back to school, and they live out in the country, and my grandfather always had a garden, but there was also just stuff growing everywhere just naturally. And that's why, like, a lot of times, like when you buy like strawberries, like people think strawberries, like, oh, there's big strawberries. Well, like out there, like we would have little tiny like wild strawberries everywhere, which I mean they're real small, but I mean there were berries growing. He had a garden, like there's just stuff growing everywhere. And I remember like he had taught me like, hey, this right here, don't eat that, like these ones are not good. But then I remember learning about like apples and like crab apples, blackberries. We had blueberries. One thing that I used to love as a kid was rhubarb. We used to grow a bunch of rhubarb. Another thing that I didn't know was a thing, but we used to grow this bush, and it was gooseberries, which in the early season, they think of it as kind of like a blueberry, but it's green. It almost looks like a pea-sized watermelon almost. And I always liked eating them when they were green because it was kind of like a crab apple. It was tart.
Yeah.
I like sour stuff.
Yeah.
So I would eat that, and I would just suck the juice out of it, and then I would just spit out the rind. But what you're supposed to do is wait until they turn purple, because when they're purple, they're actually sweet. And then growing around, like we had chives and onions and all kinds of stuff just all over the place. And then that was kind of like on my grandparents' homestead. And then with my dad, he's the one that took me out into the woods. And he's like, no, we're going to find this stuff. Like, this isn't just in the yard.
That's
like, we're
cool,
going to find this stuff.
Yeah. That's cool having that handed down to you with that kind of knowledge.
It's something, I guess I didn't really take advantage of it as much as I should have when I was a kid.
You don't think about that stuff when you're a kid. No, because, like, you're not interested in that.
Like when you're trying to teach this, teenage kid that only cares about, having long hair and skateboarding and want to be with my friends. Yeah. Learning to be like, oh, look at this bush. I'm like, I don't care. But then now that like I'm older and like I go out with them, like when we talk about hunting, like you can hear like the passion in like our experiences and our stories. And that's something that I always look past with my dad, is he was trying to teach me because he had a passion for it. Like I said, he wanted a career.
Like he's sprinkling stuff on, like some of this is going to keep, some of it's not. I just hope most of it lands.
And
Sorry.